Now, we all know that Drive to Survive has had its fair share of controversies, and as much as you may hate it, there are still plenty of moments of genuine behind-the-scenes gold that make the show worth watching. Join us as we reveal our favourite moments, but beware, there are spoilers in this video. Don't say we didn't warn you. First up is the most unlikely of opening scenes, the Binotto and Steiner bromance. The two got into a tiny green Fiat 500 and set off on a journey that was both hilarious and heartwarming. They drove through the winding roads of Italy, talking about everything from their love of F1 to their shared passion for wine. But the real kicker? Gunther bought Mattia a gift. And not just any gift, mind you, but a blue apron with the monogram named Mattia on the front. Now, that's true friendship, folks. As they arrive at Binotto's vineyard, they continue to share stories and jokes, all while enjoying some delicious wine and food. They toasted to the year ahead, with Gunther expressing his hopes for Haas and Mattia wishing for the same for Ferrari. It's a shame the toast did not have any effect, with Binotto going from king to perceived clown as Ferrari's fortunes took a nosedive and ultimately cost Binotto his job. Sticking with the theme of team principles, next on our list is Toto Wolff's infamous rant in Canada. We all remember the moment when he threatened to come after his fellow team bosses if a car ended up in the wall. But what many didn't know was that some of his rivals saw right through his outburst. Horner even confronted Toto, saying, "Hang on, are we playing up to the cameras here?" before he urged Wolff to change your effing car. It was like watching a scene straight out of a Bond movie, with two men silently wrestling over a knife in a crowded place. Now back to Steiner and how Schumacher was dead man walking. According to the second episode of Drive to Survive, Gene Haas, the owner of Haas F1, was not pleased with Mick's performance in the early races of the 2022 season. He'd already told team principal Gunther Steiner to have a little talk with the young driver after his first big crash in Jeddah. And when Mick crashed in Monaco, Haas was even more concerned. "He's in the dead man walking area," Gene remarked. "If he doesn't pull his trousers up, he will be soon." Gunther agreed. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. But wait, there's more. Just a few races later at Silverstone, Gunther was already thinking about finding someone else for 2023. He even had a conversation with lead driver Kevin Magnussen about it. When Kevin suggested that Mick has more to give, Gunther was not convinced. "Yeah, but as soon as he tries to have more, he effing crashes," he said. "Oh, Gunther, you a savage." Now, we all love Gunther Steiner for his lack of filter and his hilarious one-liners on Drive to Survive. But sometimes he goes a little too far. Like when he was mocking Mick's struggle with overheating brakes in Baku. "He's worried about overheating the brake. Effing hell. He's going so slow he doesn't need to brake," Gunther said, to the amusement of his pit wall colleagues. And when Mick's race engineer tried to console him after a disappointing result, Gunther couldn't resist another dig. "No, you were effing slow," he said with a grin. "Oh, Gunther, you're too much." But let's not forget that Gunther can also be sensitive. When he was interviewed on German television and questioned about his treatment of Mick, he was not happy. "It was pretty nasty and not fair," he said. "I treat all my drivers the same way." Well, that's good to hear, Gunther. But maybe next time, think twice before you make fun of your driver's struggles on live TV. It's just a thought. Sticking with Gunther, Ricciardo wanted $10 million to join Haas. From the moment he left Red Bull for a lucrative Renault contract in 2018, people accused him of cashing in. And it seems like the accusations just kept coming, as events in Episode 2 of Drive to Survive Season 3 did little to change the perception that his priorities had shifted. In a scene at Silverstone, Kevin Magnussen suggests Ricciardo has a potential replacement for Mick Schumacher at Haas. But team boss Gunther Steiner concedes he wants $10 effing million minimum. Putting such a high price on his head only adds fuel to the fire that money makes Ricciardo's world go round. Just minutes earlier in the same episode, Ricciardo was urged to smile by a fan while signing autographs. His response? "I charge for my smiles." Of course, we assume he was joking, but knowing post-2018 Daniel, who knows? Meanwhile, back at Haas, Magnussen suggests another surprise name for the team, Nico Hülkenberg. If you remember the Hungary 2017 media pen incident, you might find this suggestion particularly amusing. But let's fast forward to Episode 5, when the great driver merry-go-round of 2022 is set in motion. Sebastian Vettel's retirement sparks a chain of events that leads to Fernando Alonso joining Aston Martin and Oscar Piastri signing with McLaren. and it is Piastri signing that draws envious glances from Red Bull team principal Christian Horner. He is an outstanding talent, Horner acknowledges. We had an opportunity to potentially do something with him in his very formative years and we didn't pursue that. That's something that I regret not doing because he could be the next Max Verstappen. Later in episode 7, Netflix does what Netflix does best. Imagine storylines that may not be entirely accurate. This time, they suggest that Sergio Pérez is somehow fighting to save his seat heading into Monaco. But the manufactured drama leads to an interesting line from Horner. There's probably half the grid that would like to be in the team, whether it be Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, or even Yuki Tsunoda. Wait a minute, did he just mention Norris? A driver known to have held talks with Red Bull in the past. Let's file McLaren's 2023 lineup under potential future Red Bull drivers, shall we? And speaking of Ricciardo, episode 6 sees McLaren boss Zak Brown trying to engineer a driver swap with Alpine. Brown proposes that Ricciardo returns to Enstone and McLaren takes Piastri. But Alpine's initial shortlist includes names like Hülkenberg, Schumacher, and eventual signing Pierre Gasly. I'd love to see him here, but that's only because I'd love to see him stay in the sport, Brown admits when Rossi discloses Ricciardo's history with the team doesn't help his case. On to our next story, and staying with our favourite Aussie, how Zak Brown almost pulled off a Daniel Ricciardo swap deal. In episode 6 of the season, tensions are running high as Otmar Safnauer pays a visit to Zak Brown to inform him of Alpine's intention to sue Australian driver Oscar Piastri. Brown, being the savvy businessman that he is, comes up with a great solution and decides to march into Alpine's hospitality unit to propose a driver swap. That's right, he suggests that Ricciardo returns to Enstone and McLaren takes Piastri. But hold on a minute folks, this isn't just any driver swap. Ricciardo had already signed a deal to join McLaren before his second season with Alpine, then Renault had even started in 2020. Rossi, Alpine's CEO, initially seems receptive to the idea, but he later admits to a reporter that Ricciardo's history with the team doesn't help. Now, Brown isn't one to give up easily, and he's determined to make this deal happen. He even tells Rossi, "I'd love to see him here, but that's only because I'd love to see him stay in the sport." We can't help but wonder if Brown has a soft spot for Ricciardo. But who doesn't, right? But wait, there's more. Earlier in the episode, the cameras catch Ricciardo in conversation with an Italian journalist following the announcement of his McLaren exit. The journalist suggests IndyCar as an appealing alternative to an F1 seat. Before walking away, the reporter leans in for a quiet word in Ricciardo's ear. "I told you not to trust Zak." Stroll got a lot of bad press last year, and a lot was down to how he handled his team. The firing of Otmar Safnauer was one of those moments that left a bitter taste for Otmar. It all started with Safnauer's departure from Aston Martin and his memorable two popes remark about Aston Martin's leadership style. But things got even more heated when rumours started circulating about Fernando Alonso signing with Aston Martin. And let me tell you, Safnauer was not happy about it. In fact, he was so bitter that he even referred to his former team as the bad guys and the enemy when chatting with Alpine mechanics. But the real kicker came when Alonso himself told Safnauer that he was planning to sign with Aston Martin. Can you imagine the look on his face? I mean, it's like finding out your ex is dating your arch nemesis. Oof. To make matters worse, Safnauer had to attend a sponsor's event that night where he was showered with praise. Talk about awkward. I bet he was sitting there fully aware of the bombshell that was about to drop the next morning. That's it for our video. Let us know your favourite Drive to Survive moment in the comments.